Straight No Chaser.
A lot of people brought this up. It has been making the rounds. Critical race theory. Okay. For people who do not know what critical race theory is, it is a system of thought that you basically approach American politics and history with a race first lens. So if you are looking at the Civil War as a black person, you don't have to be unbiased. You are looking at it as a black person and how it impacted you, and take it all the way up to current day politics or whatever the hell else is going on in your life. It's called critical race theory. That's what it is. Right? You look like you looking it up on Wikipedia or something. Are you trying to like read the exact definition?
Well, yeah, I wanted to
Okay.
to give the specific definition.
There you go.
Fact checking your shit.
I'm just saying.
By all means, go for it.
Critical race theory is an academic movement of civil rights scholars and activists in the United States who seek to critically examine the law as it intersects with issues of race and to challenge the mainstream liberal approaches to racial justice.
So what does that mean so the reason that we're bringing this up, for those who might not be aware, there's a wide movement afoot, I guess you could say, across the country of suburban people who feel that critical race theory is being taught in schools. And it stems from the 1619 Project that was part of the New York Times last year, that basically postulated that American history starts when the first slaves got here, which was in 1619, not 1775, when the what am I thinking? Declaration of 1776, whatever. It starts in 1619. So all that to be said, ever since then, people are kind of pushing back on this whole idea of centering black people in history, and they don't want it taught in their schools, that type of thing. So we wanted to get people's opinion and feedback. Yeah,
I was just saying, like, one of the things that I think it underscores is how when it says critically examine the law as it intersects with issues of race, because when you start to do that, you have to say that America legalized oppression, racism, genocide, and no one wants to talk about the legalization of that stuff. That's why when people be like, they only follow the law. I'm just following the law. I'm just doing what the law tells me to do. Well, at one point in time, the law said it was okay to split me between two horses, tie one leg to one horse, a leg to another, and spank the horses so they run in opposite directions. And the law was cool with that. So when you start to critically examine that stuff, people get in their feelings because they feel like we trying to guilt America. I'm not trying to guilt America. Just tell the truth. Excuse me. Tell the truth.
Okay.
Truths.
So here's my question to you all. Do you feel that critical race theory is currently not being taught as a subject or whatever? They are taking certain readings. Definitely not in Texas. They're taking certain readings from the 1619 Project, and certain teachers in certain schools are trying to, inject that into their upper classes or whatever. But do you think that should even be taught in schools? Or should we look at things from a totally different perspective?
I think the way education is done in America it needs to be rethought in general. So to answer your question, the answer is no, it's not being taught, not just in Texas, but I don't think any place is teaching history, American history, in a way or in a context that gives it its justice, or it's the honest, straight no chaser kind of flavor. It's all dumbed down. It's all meant in the glorious way. Like I think even at the twins' graduation, they did the Pledge of Allegiance.
Did y'all stand up for that, or did you actually say the pledge?
I didn't. I sat down. I know Neil and I were sitting next to each other. He sat down.
I stood for it, and I stand for it at ball games. I stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, but I think in that respect,
allegiance, though, but I stand.
But in that respect, I think it needs to be taught. I think people just need honesty, because there's a lot of people in this country who believe what they read or what people tell them, and it's a lie, or it's revisionist. No different than the Lone Ranger. You watch the Lone Ranger and you think this dude, this white, sheriff in Texas is like this hero. And in some respects, he could be perceived that way. But if you're looking at it honestly, you may have a different perception or perspective on what he stood for, what he was about, and if he was in the right or in the wrong.
And a lot of our teachers that teach, unfortunately, that's not Black, really don't know the truth themselves, because I've sat in on a couple of equity meetings and racial disparity meetings and try to bid it together. And I'm just like, it's the same old violin bullshit. It's like nothing is going to change, but I try to be proactive. I go at it in a positive mindset. Like, okay, maybe this will make a difference. And after 5, 6, 7, 8 sessions, yeah, it sounds good in the session, but when you really are in the classroom and dealing with parents and you're dealing with the kids and the students and the there are no Black males, and it just hits you in the face, and it's like, what happened to all that shit we was just sitting down in this PD about? It sounds good. Like, I think a lot of school systems, they try to implement things that sound good, but when it comes to really being in the trenches with it, they don't do that. And now with the whole thing with some of these states, I think I touched on it last time, where they're trying to get rid of talking about race and equity in school systems. So if you talk about it, your school system is not getting funded. So it's just like, pay attention. You see what America's really trying to do, in my opinion, anyway.
So let me ask you a question then. So do you think that in Germany they teach the truth about, I'm asking as a parallel, right?
Yeah.
Do you think in nations where they've had a troubled history, is the lessons that they receive, like, do they learn about Anne Frank in Germany, like how they went to kill this little girl, short of diary? Is it, in, let's say in the UK, right, in England, are they taught about how they colonized so much of the world? All of these things being taught in these other respective countries who did just as sinister, mess as America has.
I don't know about other parts of Europe, but from what I understand about Germany, they go in. They teach the truth. You can't walk 20 feet, every 20 feet, without coming across some apology placard, because they had, and Kelly put it out there. Yes, they do in Germany, because they
Buzz said they don't.
Yeah, Buzz said they. I don't know where Buzz is coming from with it, but from what I've seen and in the reporting I have seen, they are really big on telling the truth, because a part of their philosophy is that there can be no reconciliation unless they tell the truth. And as a matter of fact, the brother who did the what's the brother they made that movie about, who did the memorial for the lynchings down in Alabama.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of what his name is. It's Byron something.
Yeah. A lot of what he is preaching about telling the truth and reconciliation, he's getting a lot of that from what Germany did. So I know in Germany, from what I understand, they tell the truth. I don't know if Amsterdam has become really, really no, they sugarcoat it. They try to tell the truth about the slave trade. And then
even like France, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm only asking because I think it's interesting. I think if America is supposed to be this beacon of hope and inspiration, then we need to be honest. And as a country, we're not honest with one another. People live and walk around in this trance, like America, this great, honest haven of people and inhabitants and history, and it's just not.
There's a difference between, I mean, this is one of the things I loved about Howard, that I got, I guess, opportunity to learn different things that I didn't learn. Like, what is an ideal? You know what I'm saying? People think an ideal is like a perfect example of something, and it's supposed to be, but ideal cannot exist. So America is supposed to, the American way, the American ideal, it literally can't exist. It can't happen. That's what makes it an ideal. But a lot of people have bought into that in total, and it's jacked up. But as far as what we were talking about, I know that like Germany is very deep as far as like the history and whatnot like that. And I feel like the Amsterdams of the world don't really teach about Anne Frank. But
they got the Anne Frank house. They got an Anne Frank house in Amsterdam. No, the Amsterdam is pretty liberal and
Yeah.
they try to do their apologetic thing, but they still suffer from their own little issues with racism in Amsterdam. But it's more so. It may make you uncomfortable, but it's not the type of racism like you have in America that will kill you. You know that there's a big difference.
Right.
But they started the whole trade, and then when they started the trade, it was like, oh, we don't like that. And then they started to focus on trading spices and goods after that instead of people, and that's what made them so rich to the point where they had their own golden era. So now they're trying to say, well, we stopped that because it was bad and we didn't want to partake in that. But they don't really tell the whole truth about blacks and in African heritage, black heritage in
Besides
Amsterdam.
people in Africa.
Well, I don't even know if Africa tells the whole truth.
But who tells the truth? Is there a place?
What is the truth? That's the problem. Anyway, we can spiral down there.
That's a rabbit hole.
The truth is written by the people that are victorious.
That is the truth.
Ooh. So what are you trying to say? So because black people don't know our history, that we were not victorious in times gone by, something like that?
Take it how you want to take it.
Well, let's just leave that right there, because we don't want to get cussed out worse than we already do by you, the people who listen to this show.
The chasers.
Str8 No Chaser the podcast, which, by the way, is everywhere. So please hit that like button, subscribe to this show, et cetera, et cetera. Tell your mom about us.